Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of
Ghetto.
My name is Hans
I'm Edward.
and we're your hosts for now and forevermore.
Or until one of us wins the lotto and runs away.
Hey, I'm honestly loving this new positive spin on these like weekly, I don't want to say affirmation, but I really dig it. For our regular listeners, welcome back, bitches. If you are new to Gettle, welcome to what we think is the internet's favorite podcast for everything related to gaming, entertainment, and technology and lifestyle. There were a lot of ands there, all wrapped up and they're wonderful, geeky.
And of course I'm going to blame
And of course Edward is not going to get it for the third episode of season 2. Even though we did it for the whole of season 1. Anyway, welcome ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 3 of season 2, or our overall total of 45. This is actually our 45th episode. We have some wonderful things to speak about, and as always, in terms of our episodic structure, we begin with some life facts, then reviews and previews, delicious content, and then NSFW. Edward, how you doing?
Good. Can't complain. Still the same as last week.
How about you? Nothing wrong with that, hey?
Yeah. Nothing ever wrong with being good, I guess.
Things are good on my side, thank you. I'm now rocking a new ergonomic chair, so I can hopefully sit for an hour-long session and not have back problems towards the end. In addition to that, I'm hoping for next week's episode, the setup will actually look a little bit different because I have ordered a new desk. For those of you who have been following, I'm no longer in Johannesburg. I'm temporarily in KwaZulu-Natal at our holiday home. So I obviously need to do things here in order to make it a lot easier for me to work. And one of those is getting a beautiful new desk, which will hopefully arrive next week. And then we can have an even better setup for Ghetto.
Yeah.
All right. Straight into reviews and previews, Edward. You've been quite busy as always, and I see you have 2 wonderful reviews for us.
Yeah, this week we published Werewolf, the Apocalypse, Earthblood.
What a name.
Yeah, the thing is, it's like Vampire the Masquerade. The names are based on the tabletops. So it's Vampire the Masquerade.
But yet somehow Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, although long, sounds better than Werewolf Apocalypse Earthblood. What was it?
Yeah. Earthblood.
Earthblood.
Yeah, even Vampire the Masquerade Coach Release of New York sounds better. I don't know what's going on, but they did try to revamp the names, I think in 2004, and that just never stuck. So the tabletop and everything just reverted back to the old names.
So just to confirm, technically this game, and much like Vampire the Masquerade, they're tabletop games which have been converted into video games, correct?
Yes, it's all based on the World of Darkness, like basically how every RPG lately is based on Dungeons and Dragons.
This is kind of like how. No, wait, you've got to speak to me in like movie language, because I don't
language.
It's like Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? And then all of the extra movies that are.
Yes, so the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the World of Darkness. And then you get the Thor trilogy, which is Vampire Diaries.
Vampire the Masquerade. Hey, don't get us wrong. Vampire Diaries was good for the first couple of seasons.
It was good enough. And then it's like that. So Werewolf the Apocalypse is just another branch in this big world. And it has there are actually very, very few games in the Werewolf branch. Even less in the Demon branch.
When compared to like Vampire the Masquerade branch, for example.
Well, when compared to, there are basically none. if you have to compare it, there were 2 games being developed a few years ago. Both were cancelled. This is the first game coming out now.
And give us your. I mean, we now know it's based on a tabletop game of a branch of the tabletop that wasn't very popular. So, or not that it's not popular, that they're trying to gain popularity with, which means that there's a lot riding on this title. Wouldn't you agree?
I would say so. It's obvious that the World of Darkness is a popular franchise.
Yes.
The Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines said a bit of news on that, by the way. Bloodlines 2 has basically been delayed indefinitely.
That. Yeah, it's been pushed. But I mean, what hasn't been pushed this year? Even God of War has been moved into 2022 at the earliest now.
Exactly.
But that was a bit of a given. Okay, but before we get sidetracked, back to just finish with this.
There's so much news. Anyway, Werewolf the Apocalypse. Yeah, I would say a lot is riding on it since this is essentially the first game ever coming out, and it sucks. It's not a good game. I played like an hour when we first got the game, and Ian asked me about it, and I told him I don't like it so far, but I have to play a bit more.
But you pushed through, right?
More, and then I told you it's bad, and now everyone knows it's bad. It's just not a good game.
Okay, well, I mean, so you're saying it's not great. Tell us why.
Yes.
Like, the score we gave it with regards to EGAD was average. And I actually queried this with Edward, and I was like, why average and not disappointing?
So the reason for that is simply because, so first things first, the game looks like a PlayStation 2 or Xbox 360 era game. It just looks kind of like, if you remember Siphon Filter from like that era, this looks exactly like that almost, like a more polygon version of Hitman.
Strange design decision. All right.
Yeah, it just looks a bit dated. And then the animations are stiff as hell. There is a big sneaking mechanic in the game, which is weak as well. The AI
isn't that supposed to be the core of the gameplay though? The stealth?
Yeah, because so you play this guy called Kahal, and he's obviously a werewolf.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this because I don't really know much about the werewolf branch of the tabletop, but Kahal can transform, or rather, he has 3 forms. One of those is the Cortis, which is the big werewolf, kind of like the underworld Lycans of the underworld movies.
Yeah.
And then the other one, I already forgot the name. I think it's just normal werewolf, which is just a big wolf. Think Twilight.
Yeah.
And now this wolf is the super stealthy, fast version.
Actually, I have to. So, as you all know, I'm the primary editor at Vamer, so I always edit Edward's work before it gets seen by the masses, most of the time, or like 99% of the time. And I actually laughed out loud when he mentioned Twilight as a proper reference, because it's actually like a good reference, to be honest. Stephanie Meyer did the Werewolves and Vampires just, in my opinion.
Yeah, not only that, she's the only writer I know of who did the werewolves like normal wolves.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm a writer as well, and in some of my stories, they're also just normal wolves. I don't like the big lichen thing that Underworld does and Bram Stoker does and all those other does. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked.
Yeah, as always.
It's so 2 of his forms are stealthy. His human form and this normal wolf form. Super stealthy, super fast, and it sucks. The AI is too inconsistent for you to pull off stealth in almost any
situation.
And then you shift into the Cortis form, which is I will concede a lot of fun. It's basically a mixture of I would say Prototype, if you know those games. It's
the
where
game,
it's a game where you just kind of did what you wanted. Now that's a lot of fun. The combat is fun, but it's repetitive. Now you have these 3 forms, and you go through these missions, and all of the missions look the same. No matter where you go, you're supposed to go to some refinery in the outbacks. It's the same. You're supposed to go to some office space somewhere in the city. It looks the same.
So what you're saying is it's a 2021 release title with dated gameplay, visuals, and story narrative.
The narrative, it wants to go somewhere,
but it doesn't.
And also, I think I didn't mention this in my review, actually, which only in retrospect I realized. There are a lot of World of Darkness jargon and lore being thrown at you constantly. And I don't think it's ever properly explained.
Oh, you see.
Um,
You see, now, I mean, I know your rating is your rating, right? But
yeah.
everything we're speaking about now, to me, this all sounds disappointing.
Yeah.
Now,
See,
now
the reason...
you've said average. Is that because you still think that it's okay to pick up and play?
Yeah, it's okay to pick up and play. If you're a big World of Darkness fan, I would say get it.
Okay,
If you
fair
have
enough.
all the vampire games, get it. The reason it's average and not disappointing is because I believe that AI can be fixed with a patch. I believe more levels can be added via
Yeah.
DLC, which I hope will be free.
So it's
and
more
that
of
kind of
a,
thing.
it can be fixed to be a lot better.
Yes.
We're
to
gonna
be
we're
way
gonna
better than it is.
expand on that topic a little bit later because I'm very sore about a certain game that was cancelled, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
Edward, you also reviewed the MediaBox Maverick, which I will concede is quite an interesting product. So, for those of you who've been listening for a while, you know that I'm an Apple person. I have everything Apple: the watch, the MacBook, the AirPods Max, the Apple TV, everything. If it's Apple, I've got it. All right, but for a good reason. They work really well. I find that the ecosystem is where I want to be, and so on and so forth. With that said, there's obviously place for other products, particularly in terms of Android TV. Now, this MediaBox Maverick, again, I've said is interesting before, and the reason is because it's actually a local product, and I think that that's pretty cool. And of course, when I say local, it's probably some universal design that somebody's brought in and have just given it a, a name or whatever the case is. But
Yeah.
it's technically, look, it might not necessarily be South African through and through, but it is available locally, kind of like how Roku is not something you can find very easily here. But at least now we have something like the MediaBox Maverick. And so Edward has now been using it for a good 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks. So Ed, give us the overview. Like, is it worth it? Pricing, that kind of thing. How it performs.
In short, yes, I think it's worth it. It's essentially the go-to media box, I would say, anywhere, even in South Africa, I would say, is something like the Apple TV.
Yeah.
People that don't have the Apple TV usually have Plex setups. For the longest time, I had a Plex setup. I still do.
I still do as well.
And then this is essentially the Apple TV, just the Android version of it, in layman's terms. So the reason why I like it so much, though, and the reason why I would say anyone to just get it, is essentially because it's super simple to set up and it's not that expensive.
So
priced.
What you're saying almost, and before we get to the price in that, is that they've taken quite an Apple approach.
Essentially, yes. It's literally you open the carton and it's like this big. Okay, to our viewers who's listening, I'm basically extending my hands to the entire bottom and top of my.
It's larger. It's
webcam.
larger. Yeah, it's large.
Yeah, and then you open it up and it's this tiny 14 by 14 square box inside, and it's super tiny. Like my webcam is thicker than the media box.
That's what you said. No.
Yeah. And then you literally the HDMI cable and the power cable comes included. A remote control comes included with batteries. It uses the tiny AA batteries though, which I find weak. I would have liked one AAA.
Okay, but now
rather
performance wise, I assume 4K HDR.
Yes, it's got 10-bit 4K. It's got 10-bit HDR, and it's got 4K up to 75 frames per second. I know that's sounds
great.
weird.
Yeah, no, that's
but
good.
many people actually, especially a 3D and those weird movies. I forgot the name. It's mixed media movies essentially.
Yeah.
They have weird frames, and going up to 75 just means it's more stable.
It's catered for, basically.
Yeah.
Also, I know for 3D, it's because of the interpolation. So a 60 frame 3D movie actually runs at 30 frames for each eye.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So it's got all these codecs and functionality and horsepower.
That's great.
Actually,
for what?
give
For
you this
only, what,
movie.
1.5?
1.5 a take lot, 1.4 if you know where to
If you can
look,
shop around.
yeah. And I think it's just priced very well for what you get. Android TV is super simple to use. The remote itself has Google Assistant built into it, which is amazing for
Yeah,
non-techies.
you would, yeah. Give us a couple of examples about that, because the little bit that I read in your review, I was like, that is amazing, because even the Apple TV doesn't do that.
So teaching my mom how to do anything on a remote is difficult. Like it took me a good year just to get it used to the fact that you can go into a playlist on DSTV. Now the MediaBox Maverick, the remote comes with a Google Assistant button. So what I did is I signed in with her account, and she frequents Showmax and YouTube. And I let her press the button and tell Google Assistant to launch her favorite show on the platform she watches it. So she said, launch Binnenlanders on Showmax.
That worked?
It worked. So underneath
Binnenlanders
the screen, you'll see,
worked?
Yes. So underneath the screen, you'll see it try to understand what you're saying. And at first, it doesn't make sense. But then through, obviously, because you have a constant internet connection, every word fixes itself, just like that. And then it said, launch Binnenlanders on Showmax. And Showmax popped up with the Binnenlanders screen.
Incredible.
It is amazing. And then for myself, obviously, it's launched this show on Netflix, and it will go to that show on Netflix. It's amazing. It's really, really good.
I'm curious, does it only work for internet-connected programs like Showmax and Netflix, or could you technically say resume this on Plex? Would that work?
I have not tried Plex, to be fair.
I would love you to please try that for me, because that is something I'm very curious about. Like, I can understand why it would work for a streaming enabled platform like Showmax or Netflix or Amazon Prime. But I'm even more curious to know if Google Assistant is intelligent enough to work for programs that are not streaming services. In many ways, I'd like to think so, because it should be able to read the metadata.
Yeah. See,
look, this is another topic, but I mean...
No, the thing is, on that note, Showmax and Netflix and Prime, they all have their own search engines with dictation.
Yes, correct.
So Plex doesn't, obviously, unless you get the correct plugins and whatever. So maybe it's worth a shot. I should try it. Yeah.
Well, try it and let us know next week.
Yeah.
So, okay.
It's a good idea.
This is very, very cool. So, in your opinion, what have you rated the MediaBox Maverick?
It's good. It's not exceptional for the sole reason that there are many alternatives. You can make your own Plex alternative for much cheaper if you're
almost
willing
free.
to go through this. If you're willing to go through the challenge of doing it. So if you're a techie, you'll love it.
Now, something else that I want you to do is I want to know if you can sideload stuff. I know we actually spoke about this in the week. So cool. Yeah. 2 things, Ed, for a follow-up. Can you sideload things? Because I'm curious to know if it has the full Android system on it, or if it's like a stripped-down version for Android TV. And then secondly, if some of the more universal Google features will actually work for apps that are not online enabled,
Yeah.
Now moving on to some previews, which could almost be a review, especially the next one that we're going to speak about. So a couple of weeks back, we were given the opportunity of participating in the all-new Watch Dogs Legion online mode. Edward went through and did it, and now he's come away with his thoughts. Hey, Ed?
Yeah. So the thing about Watch Dogs Legion is that as much as I liked the game, I liked Watch Dogs 2 better. Turns out that with friends, I think that makes up for it. So, so the argument can be said that everything is better with friends. Look at games like, I don't know, even PUBG. It's just at the end of the day, it's better. But Watch Dogs Legion -online mode is it's actually very, very fun. You can see just by launching it, it feels like the game was catered for it from the start, which is very, very good.
I remember one of the biggest critiques between Watch Dogs 2 and Watch Dogs Legion is how in the first 2 games you have a single protagonist. who you use throughout the title. Then all of a sudden in Legion, you can be whomever you want. Now, in retrospect, it actually makes sense because with the online mode coming and having other people jumping in, anybody can be whomever they want to be.
Yeah, suddenly you have this legion of DeadSec agents.
There we go. Oh,
and
that's incredible.
So
I love how
sense.
it plays on the name.
It turns out that they actually planned for it from the start. And we only actually heard of the online mode and was promised an online mode just about on launch. So no one even knew a multiplayer was planned. Well, extended multiplayer was planned for the game until at launch. And obviously the worry is always that, oh no, but this is an open world single player game. How are they going to balance it out for multiplayer? Turns out they don't need to, because the game is whack anyway.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily that. It's more that it's clear they planned it from the start. So, some of the weird inconsistencies through the single player actually make sense now because of the multiplayer aspect of the title.
Yeah, that makes sense. So anyway, it's getting connected with friends is as easy as pie. You just log in and you add your friends to your party and you go. And then the online mode was filled with basically open world activities and then PvP and essentially missions, which you initiate by going into the map screen, or I think it's M or tab on PC. I can't remember because I play with controller. You initiate the map screen and then you select the mission. Now, my one qualm about this is when you select the mission, even though you're already in a party, in a screen with 4 people, which is a maxed out party, it will throw you into a random ass game. Unless you tick a tiny little box at the top of the screen that says you want to do this mission with your friends.
With just your friends.
Which is stupid. Now, I did talk to Ubisoft about that. They did say they might have a fix for that come launch, which will be 9 March.
Correct.
So...
You see, now isn't that cool for those of you who listen? And that's one of the few perks of this job, is how we will sometimes be privy to pre-launch code or pre-launch activities. And what's so nice about it is that although we wouldn't be considered official beta testers, because they obviously have people who do that, the fact is, should we come across something that raises concerns, we can actually tell Ubisoft directly. And more often than not, they'll actually take the time to implement changes. For those of you who are aware of Digital Foundry, you'll know that they actually do that quite often when it comes to their videos. So I just have to bring it up because it's happened a few times over the last decade of being in these positions. And it's really cool when studios listen. I know that it sounds strange to say the studios listen, but even though we do this as a living, we still feel that we're like the norm. We're like normal people. It's just because we have a direct line with the PR doesn't mean that, they're going to take us more seriously above somebody else. But it's more along the lines of we have a little bit of a leeway in, and it feels really good when they do listen.
Yeah, it's actually nice. It's nice when the official PR person comes to you and they say, thanks for your feedback.
So many stories.
We'll implement this. And so that's Watch Dogs Legion. As I said, it launches 9 March, and it's actually a lot of fun. That's
cool. Well, now something that came out on the 25th of February is the demo for Outriders, a brand new RPG / multiplayer title. So Edward and I, we both downloaded it and we gave it some time to play. And it's interesting, to say the least. I would like to maybe explain what the title is about, but I'm still not entirely sure. from what I gather, it's the world ended, right? And then a ginormous spaceship was sent out to find another world that they found called
Enoch.
Thank you so much. And
look, I'm invested in this game.
Upon landing on the planet, it turns the first group that land on the planet to make the settlement for the rest of humanity are called Outriders. And in so doing, of course, as is always the case, there's some Machiavellian scientist who doesn't want to listen to what everybody else has to say against better judgment of the Outriders. And there's some like alien storm that happens and it starts killing people and converting others. But we'll speak about that in just a second. And that's technically the gist of the story, correct? And you actually play as one of these Outriders who becomes altered. But the difference between the other altereds in the game and your Outrider is that you were in cryostasis for over 30 years. So you were frozen when the shit was hitting the fan, and you were unfrozen when there was just shit everywhere after hitting the fan.
Yeah, after it just splattered the entire room. Essentially, I think the game should have been called Altered, honestly, as someone who is not a developer and who doesn't make any of these decisions. I think
that
Altered would have
actually
fit.
Now that I've played it, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because the Outrider aspect is literally just
it's just the intro,
just
right?
like just the first hour of the game, and then it doesn't make sense at all anymore. Anyway, so yeah, as Hans said, there's this big event that happens on Earth where everyone dies out. You learn this in the first minute of the game, so it's not a spoiler.
Yeah, none of what we've spoken about now is spoilers. It's literally, it's the first, it's like the initial half an hour of gameplay. It's really like they just throw it at you. There's no real explanation. It's kind of like, this is happening. Oh shit. And then it's like, okay, you're in the game.
Pretty much. So you land. I've got to say, by the way, when the spaceship came and did the whole alien intro thing, and shot off, the pod shot off, I had 0 sense of scale until that thing landed. Because I thought it was
it looked so
normal
small.
ass drop pod.
Yeah. So initially when I was watching, I was like, oh, look, it's a probe. And then it landed and there's like thousands of people came out. I was like, oh.
it's huge. Yeah, so the mothership was huge. Anyway, so altered people exist. They aren't super unique. We got to make note of that.
Well, there's still lore as to why, which is, I think, it will probably be revealed later, I'm assuming, further in the narrative.
No, it's revealed. I don't know revealed why, but it's revealed how you get made.
But this is the thing. Okay, so not to be spoiler, because it isn't. The demo only gives you the first, I think, 3 hours of the game, and as far as I understand, it's a many tens of hours of game.
It's a huge RPG.
So they don't really explain it just yet. Like, yes, there are people who become altered by whatever this alien force is on the planet, but I do think there's so much more to it than that, because there are little hints that they've thrown at you in the opening hours, specifically with the numbers on his hand, which I don't want to mention just yet, but they hint at it, and I do feel there's something far more, and I'm wondering, and this is just a guess, that if time travel is not going to play a point in it at some point in the future.
Maybe. As you said, throughout the game, they keep hinting back at these numbers. Especially in the first 3 hours. They keep, like, Shira, one of the NPCs, she sees the numbers, she's like, oh. And then we don't know why she went, oh.
Exactly.
And that's intriguing. And it feels kind of like, like Andromeda needs to find.
I want to, okay, let's talk about gameplay for a second, okay?
Yeah.
So a lot of people have been tooting Outriders. I'm personally not impressed. For me, it's very much Gears of War with added RPG elements for, outfits and guns and stuff like that, and powers from Destiny. That is what Outriders is. So the way it plays, I'm not saying it plays badly. It's very much a cover shooter. That's what it is. You have to move from cover to cover and then use your special abilities in between in order to regain health, because that's part of the lore, the ethos or whatever, whereby your altered gains health by killing people. So a part of the marketing campaign for the game is for you to be violent. I know that sounds strange, but it's just part of it. I mean, I like Gears of War very much, but I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel it in Outriders. I feel, and I'll speak a little bit more just now after we've spoken about this, when I actually can speak about a game that I want to speak about, and it has to do with gameplay. I find that Outriders gameplay is very unoriginal. You've seen it before, and for me, it's going to get boring very quickly. That's my first opinion. So it's not a review or anything. That's just my opinion of the demo.
See, the thing is, Outriders clearly, it to me, because I still play it actively. It feels like Breakpoint or like Division 2. It's a looter shooter at its core. I do get the elements of Gears, especially in the way the characters look.
But
like
very
this
much.
guy has
I mean,
massive
the way
ass
the way they
hands.
move, even. It's. I mean, even the way they run.
So it feels like they copied a bit of Gears and then put a bit of Division 2 on it.
You say okay, I can see that. I'd say more Destiny though, because in Division you don't have abilities, you don't have powers.
But
anyway,
in Destiny
same
you only
thing,
have
same
the Q
concept.
and E ability. In Division you have different abilities depending on your loadout. In this one you also have different abilities depending on how you slot your RPG character. There is a huge ass skill tree. I looked ahead.
I see what you're saying.
It's massive.
No, but it's the same as Destiny. You can swap out powers. It's the same as Anthem, but we'll speak about that just now.
Yeah, it's exactly the same as Anthem, in a sense, because that's also a looter shooter. But I don't know. I like the game so far. I like everything about the game. I will say this much: the shaky cam needs to go.
But you see, that's part and parcel of a cover shooter.
No, but in the cutscenes, literally you'll get this cutscene, and then this cam will go like this, like some B movie from Tux University or something.
Not just that. Okay, but now we're launching into nitpicking. But one of the few things that really irritates me about it is whenever you want to enter into dialogue, there are consistent black screens.
Yes, that as well.
You know, and there's also a lot of loading between segments when there really shouldn't be. I will speak about that more again in the future, just now, because it's all leading me towards something. Basically, long story short, I'm not hyped for Outriders. I have played enough now to know that it's not a game that I personally would be invested in. Of course, each to their own. Edward is actually enamored with it because don't get me wrong, I think the narrative is awesome. Like, if I ever had to play Outriders, I'd play it for the narrative because I actually want to know what's going on. I'm curious to know more about the Altered, more about the world, what happened on Earth. And, there's a lot of unanswered questions that I'd love answers to. But is that enough for me to play a cover-based looter shooter? No. That's just because I'm not that kind of gamer.
Yeah.
Whereas as Edward has said, he loves like Wildlands, for example, which is a cover-based looter shooter. So, he would therefore obviously gravitate towards something like Outriders.
To each their own, I guess.
Which leads me to Anthem. Electronic Arts have officially announced that Anthem Next, the very long looked forward to update to Anthem, has now officially been cancelled. Anthem is dead. Y'all? Anthem is dead. And I am rather upset about this news because I've been playing it religiously since launch. I enjoy the game. I'm not really one for looter shooters per se. All right? If something there's a certain level of repetitiveness that I will, feel is okay. Like Destiny, for example, is not. I have enjoyed the game in the past, but I feel it's too repetitive. The little bit I played of Outriders, for example, I can already tell I'm going to get irritated with the gameplay because it's just super repetitive. Now, yes, Anthem had somewhat repetitive gameplay, but, and this is the big difference, having the ability to fly around the map a la Iron Man, including in encounters, just gives the gameplay a level of freshness that I just haven't seen in any other looter shooter since Anthem released. And that saddens me the most because they really nailed the movement and the gameplay. But where the game failed was in content. There just wasn't enough content to keep players going. There are only so many times you can do the same mission when there are only a finite number of missions and no new missions had been added in over 2 years. So, from that perspective, yes, Anthem was very, very, very much lacking. But from a gameplay perspective and an actual fun perspective in terms of the way the anthems feel and the javelins, the way the javelins feel and the abilities that they had. And there was just so much possibility. And now it's just been thrown away. And I'm rather disappointed by that because, I'm and the reason why I want to bring this up again, and I want to link this to Outriders a little bit, is because I see a lot of similarities in Outriders that were also present in Anthem. Things that really irritated people. And one of those big things was consistent loading. Was no matter every time you wanted to do something, there was a load screen. And Outriders has exactly the same thing. I actually, in the last couple of hours of playing, I actually got really irritated by it. And I was like, why is there a load screen? Why is there even a break here?
The difference between the two, though, I will say, Anthem had long loading. Outriders has a lot of loading. So I would say they're the same in annoyance.
In fairness to Anthem, the initial load, yes, was sometimes absolutely horrific. But once you were in the game, it was quick. So I'm not talking about the initial load. I'm talking about that whole like going from one location to the next. But still, loading. Why? Why do I need to have a loading screen when I'm talking to somebody? Yeah, why do I need a loading screen when I go through a door?
Why? Especially between cutscenes.
But this is what I'm getting at. A lot of the things that people complained heavily about in Anthem are now present in Outriders, which is a brand new looter shooter. Now, I'm not saying I don't want to be overly negative about it, but I'm already looking at that and I'm already getting irritated by it, and I'm like, why didn't they learn from previous releases of other titles?
Yeah.
You see, that's a big thing for me. Now, of course, the narrative in Outriders is decent. It's enough, I think, to pull people in a little bit. And the bit that I have played with like the side missions and the main story quests are pretty good. I'm just curious to know how long that's going to last for before it becomes insanely repetitive in terms of having to redo the same missions again and again and again.
See, that's the thing.
But that's also the same thing with Anthem. In my opinion, Anthem had a pretty good story. It wasn't amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but if you really looked into the lore, and that was one of the big failings with Anthem, is where they left a lot of the lore in terms of finding, nodules and things around the map instead of actually explaining it to people. So a lot of people ended up not caring, but for those who took part in it, it's actually pretty incredible. With Outriders, they're doing that as well, but they are explaining things a little bit more as well. So it's a little bit easier to know what's going on and that kind of thing. I'm sorry, I'm very upset about Anthem, okay?
You have right to be. I will say one thing about Outriders is that I think one of the reasons I do like it as well is because the writing feels the same as Andromeda in terms of characters
You are right. Even the text selection and the dialogue wheel is very similar.
Almost, yeah. I suppose so. Yeah. So,
but I guess that's the RPG element of it, right?
Maybe.
Where things like Destiny don't have that. You just kind of flow through it. Even Anthem didn't really have much of like choice selection. It was just you go through it,
Yeah.
So I do like that aspect of Outriders, but again, I don't know. I'm not convinced. I might maybe pick it up in the future, but for me right now, it's not a game I'm actually interested in. Like if I have to grind, I'd rather grind in Apex. And that's because Apex doesn't feel like a grind. You play a variety of different characters and you just enjoy the match. You try to survive, It's not like having to do exactly the same thing again and again, even though it kind of is. But anyway. All right. So that's Outriders and Anthem. Now, something else that happened recently was PlayStation State of Play. Just kind of randomly came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Not a very big one. Very small. They just spoke about a few things. So we're just going to give you sort of the crib notes version of it. They spoke about some PS5 enhancements for certain titles like Crash 4, which I think is great. There was also a quick look at Oddworld Soulstorm, but one cool thing about this is that it looks like PlayStation 5 owners will actually get the game for free when it releases for everybody to purchase, which I think is quite a nice catch because I'm a big fan of the Oddworld series.
Yeah.
There was a little bit more information about Returnal, which is a new Metroidvania style game, which seemingly is exclusive to PlayStation. It looks pretty decent. Edward stipulates that it's a bit like a roguelite.
Yep.
I don't know. It looks interesting. I'd like to know a little bit more. The fact that whenever your character dies and you come back, the world changes and the enemies change is interesting to me because I'm curious to know how fresh they'll be able to keep that,
Um,
going forward.
yeah.
You know,
That should be
they
nice.
also announced a new title called Sifu. This one also came out of nowhere. It's got a pretty nice visual look to it. Kind of looks like cell shaded animation, and it's all about it's a kung fu based 3D beat 'em up basically, and it looks pretty good, to be honest. For those who might be interested, the name Sifu is actually Cantonese for skilled master or warrior. I thought that was quite cool. That's what they were naming the game after.
Okay.
Um, there was also another game called Solar Ash, which looks very much like No Man's Sky meets Sunset Overdrive
It
in terms of
does,
gameplay,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Look,
I
we're not
didn't
going to
make
go.
the connection.
We're not going to go too in depth into all of these things. I mean, you can go and look them up.
Hmm?
But there's also a 3D version of Five Nights at Freddy's, which I thought looked very interesting. It doesn't look very scary though. It kind of reminds me a bit of like Alien Isolation, where you can kind of see the character coming for you, versus if you play Five Nights at Freddy's at the moment, the character is just on your screen and you end up screaming. So it looks like a little bit of a different
It's a
thing
bit
to it.
different, yeah.
Now, the two games I do want to speak about, which were the highlights for me in terms of the Sony PlayStation State of Play, is Deathloop and Kenna Bridge of Spirits. Those are the two games. So Kenna just looks incredible. It looks like a Pixar animated film come to life, but in terms of video game, it looks stunning. It is a platformer. For those of you who have listened long enough, you know I love platformers. So 100% on board for that. Would like to know more because it didn't show much. They just showed a little bit of the gameplay. It just looks incredible. Now, one of the most interesting titles, and this is one I think a lot of people have been sleeping on, and that is Deathloop. Now, what's interesting about this is, of course, as most of you know, it's developed by Arcane, published by Bethesda, which are studios now owned by Microsoft. So, what was most interesting about this is Microsoft, when all of the news came out that Microsoft had bought Bethesda and so on and so forth, people were wondering, well, what about these timed exclusives? Well, turns out that Microsoft is still keeping them intact, I assume for legal reasons. And so Deathloop is now a 1-year timed exclusive for PlayStation 5 and I think PC. It's just a console exclusive at the moment. The thing is, the game looks super interesting. Now, I didn't know much about it before, but what I do know now is that it's sort of a stealth-like game mixed with action. Hey, Ed?
Yeah, to me it looks kind of like um Dishonored. There we go. That's the title because it is an Arcane Studios game.
Correct?
So it looks like Dishonored in the 22nd or 23rd century, kind of. And yeah, it's basically this multiplayer. I think it's a multiplayer game. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, so let me expand on that quickly before we carry on. So the whole premise of Deathloop is that you are this individual called Colt. Colt, as in Colt, not cult, but Colt. And you are stuck in a time loop. Now, the only way out of this time loop is to kill 8 people. Now, not 8 people in the world, just 8 people in whatever stage you're in, or in the game itself, which I'm assuming would be AI driven and so on and so forth. The thing is, every time you die, or assuming you are not able to kill all 8 by midnight of that day, of that game day, the time loop resets. The only difference, though, is that Colt retains his memory, but everybody else forgets. So, in this sense, it's to help you as the player remember and figure out how to get rid of certain people quicker or sooner or before the time limit runs out. All right? Now, the multiplayer aspect of it, and this is what I think is very cool, is that the opposite of Colt. So Colt is the protagonist, right? So I would imagine it's the antagonist, is a lady by the name of Juliana. Now, what's cool about Juliana is that generally she is an AI-driven character. However, if you toggle the option, it will matchmake you with another human player who acts as Juliana, who tries to stop you from killing the 8 people that are needed to kill in order to finish the game.
See, that sounds interesting, and I like that. I love that it's a toggle instead of just a forced thing.
I agree. Yeah.
Which means single player people can play this and just have fun with the game. I imagine replayability will be huge in this game. Like, I mean, speed.
Do you know what it makes me think of? It makes me think
What?
of like a fast first-person shooter Hitman.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly. It looks like as well, to be fair.
Yeah, you're
But
right, actually.
I do not like. Rather, the game doesn't look like it'll resonate with me as a player because it seems a bit as if they ran out of ideas and they just took all the abilities from Dishonored and gave it to this game and made an arena.
No,
That's
it's just
that's
what you
what it
said.
sounds like to
It's
me.
Dishonored in the future. I mean,
Exactly. And I don't know. But it does have an incredible premise, at least. So I'll give it that. So I'm quite keen to test
well,
that.
either way, it is a game that I'm curious about, and I guess
Yeah.
we'll have a look at it when it eventually releases later this year.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of loops, we're going to go from time loops to musical loops.
Okay.
Okay, have you ever listened to certain like really good pop songs and you're like, what does that even mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Prime example, Hit Me Baby One More Time. I mean, everybody knows where that comes from. It's Britney Spears. Okay, Britney Spears is Hit Me Baby. Hey, Britney, free Britney, free Britney. So, um, what's interesting about the title is when it came out, there was a lot of hoopla around the title because everyone was like, is she advocating for gender-based violence? You know, hit me, baby, one more time.
See, I assumed it was naughty. I thought it was a naughty thing, like hit me, yeah,
Okay,
do it,
so,
daddy.
but yeah, okay,
Like-
you see, okay, yes, no, you're partially correct, but understand that the general consensus of people not knowing about BDSM would think that is
People
not
are dumb. Okay.
Anyway, well, why I'm bringing this up is because I actually recently learned that "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time" was actually meant to be "Hit Me Up, Baby, One More Time," as in hit me up on the phone,
Like
hit me up, like hit on me, like hit me up tonight at 8. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of a thing. And with that in mind, it all comes back to the fact that the original composer of the song, the songwriter, was Swedish, a man by the name of Max Martin. And because English wasn't his first language, or isn't his first language, when he wrote "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time," nobody else picked it up that it should be "Hit Me Up."
On that note, though, now that you mentioned Max Martin, did you know that this guy is one of the most prolific songwriters ever, and
Yes.
most of the Billboard 100 songs still ongoing is written by Max Martin.
You see,
It's
now,
crazy.
No. What's fascinating about this? What's fascinating about this is he made a mistake. All right, people didn't pick up on it, and it became a huge hit.
Yep.
So therefore, this now leads me to something else that I found, which is just so incredibly interesting. And it has to do with, do you listen to the lyrics of songs that you actually listen to? And if you do, how often? Like, honestly, Edward, I'm sure we've asked this before on Gettle, but do you?
Yeah. See, I grew up with blues and jazz. So obviously, especially with blues, it's all about the lyrics. So even today, I listen mostly to lyrics, but there are obviously EDM songs which just goes.
Oh, I mean, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, funny enough, EDM and dance are the ones that never make sense if you really listen to what they're saying in terms of the lyrics.
Like
now, I'm bringing this up because I'm actually somebody who almost never listens to lyrics, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before in season 1 of Gettle, but if you really look at the music that I generally enjoy, they're actually quite depressive if you have to read or really listen to the lyrics. Anyway, I'm bringing this up because with Max Martin on the mind and how you're telling us how he's had like hundreds and hundreds of hits and all in the Billboard 100, even though they're filled with mistakes. And I know he's worked with a lot of other big bands like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and a lot of the times if you go and listen to those catchy lyrics, they're just like, what the F are you talking about? Because it makes zero sense. Now, I actually came across this very, very interesting article about an Italian singer by the name of Adriano Celentano, all right? And he released a song in the 70s with completely nonsensical lyrics. Nothing. Literally the words are make-believe. They do not exist in any language. And he did it in order for it to sound like it was American English. Okay? And what's fascinating about the song is that it became a massive hit.
Jeez. See, that's the thing. If something has a good catchy beat, I don't think it matters.
But it's not even that. I think the way it works is so I've listened to it, and if I can, I'll slot it in here. But obviously, it'll be a very small snippet because of
like
copyright and so on and so
seconds,
forth. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some of the official lyrics to you, just quickly, just to give you an idea. So the song's name is Prison Colinencia and Sucusiosol. All right, and I'm trying to read this. So I'm just going to read the first two verses. If it sounds like gibberish and weird, it's because it's meant to, okay? So
wait, before you do, sing it to us.
Oh my gosh, no.
To try to sing
I
it.
don't know okay, I'll try. Prison Colinencia Sucusiosol. In the Colmen Suevion. Prison Colin. I can't. Okay. It's Prison Colinencia and Kin you still all right. Is the same cues now up the same. All wet men in the cotterbus die. Siak is a mind begin to call. Baby still ye push your hoe.
Be right back. I think my sim is dying.
Sul sul.
We don't stay in the shoes now, and whole building scene in a whole red maybe get the color boss dying. Chance and my begin to call, baby, stay yet, Bill Joe.
If I'm not able to include the recording here, we will link to it. And I implore all of you to go and just listen to this. If you honestly didn't know any better, you would genuinely think it was English language being spoken. I've obviously just I've really messed it up far more than anybody should have to have messed it up. And I see here that Edward actually added a note to this discussion about Lost Ketchup.
Yeah, so Lost Ketchup, it's a girl band from I think the 90s.
I remember that
80s.
from the 90s.
But you'll know the Ketchup song. Everyone knows the Ketchup song. Not because of its name. This girl band, they were obsessed with tomatoes for some reason. But because of its catchy chorus, and it's that one that goes dere,
yes,
and
yes,
I can't
yes,
pronounce
yes.
the words because I can't pronounce the words because they literally make no sense. And this is not because Max Martin or someone else made a mistake. This is intentionally done by Lost Ketchup. They sampled a song called Rapper's Delight, and because they are Spanish, they don't understand English one bit. And they listened to the song and literally just copied what they heard and pronounced
that's
it
brilliant. That's
so
brilliant.
badly that it makes no sense. You can't even put it in Google Translator in any language and let it make sense.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's just one of those same songs that makes no sense.
I actually wonder, so, we were speaking now about gibberish and making words up, like how the Italian guy made words that sounded English but weren't English. So I have to wonder, what are the Martians hearing when they catch our signals?
Gosh.
I mean,
they're like, what is this shit?
In addition to all of the world's languages, there's also gibberish now that they have to contend with. And what if we're fluking them off by accident?
That's what I'm thinking. Like, what if we're cruising at their moms and telling them to go do something nasty with their moms while we're playing Call of Duty or something? Like,
oh my gosh, I don't even. So, with that in the mind, for those of you who are aware of what's been happening in space and tech, you'll know that Perseverance has finally landed on Mars. And it is just a momentous occasion for NASA and the world because Perseverance is massive. It's an SUV-sized rover. It's one of the biggest we've ever sent off planet, with the exception of satellites.
Yeah.
And it's just a phenomenal rover because it actually includes so much. I mean, there's seismometers on there. There's all sorts of instruments. There's even and they've just deployed it a couple of days ago, that's currently charging at the moment, a little drone, which is now going to fly around Mars. And bear in mind, NASA is doing all of this with a plus minus 15-minute delay in terms of actually getting, or telling Perseverance what to do. And it's just incredible. I've been seeing all of the pictures that are coming through about it, and I just wanted to speak about it because I think it's an incredible milestone for humanity, or rather, I'm in awe all the time when I see things from a legitimate another planet. And then, of course, that makes me think of something that the one NASA lady said, and I mentioned this to Edward, and of course, this is conspiracy theory time for y'all, is how she was all like, now we can explore past civilizations. Say what?
Maybe the thing is, one, it could be a joke, an inside joke or whatever. Two, it could be code for something else. Maybe something they know, something they don't know, something we don't know. Or just to, maybe it was just
if we have to hypothesize, right? If we have to hypothesize, I'm not a firm believer, but I gravitate towards the hypothesis that Mars was the original Earth, and we destroyed it, and we now live on Earth as our secondary habitat.
That works. Yeah. I mean, it's not a theory I've heard.
I don't know.
Really
it was just interesting for her to say that, unless maybe, she obviously maybe didn't mean it in that way. Maybe it's just more along the lines of, the past of that planet. What was there? I mean, that makes sense, but of course it's nice to think what else could be there,
Yeah. Aliens.
Now, well, yeah, this is exactly. With space and everything, I don't know if any of you know about Starlink, which is SpaceX's and Elon Musk's new internet system that they're throwing up into the outer orbits, which is going to consist of thousands and thousands of Starlink satellites to offer fast, high-speed broadband internet to Earthlings.
Well,
it's been around for a while, but they've just opened pre-orders for South Africans, and I actually pre-ordered. There was a $99 deposit, which I've paid for, and eventually, within maybe about a year or so from now, because they're expecting a 2022 release for South Africa, I'll pay the $500 for the actual hardware, and then I will have internet access up to 200 megabits per second download, and I think between 50 and 100 upload with a latency of only 20 to 40 millisecond ping, which is absolutely phenomenal, since I can't even get that with LTE, which is on Earth, and now we're actually talking about beaming a signal from space and back.
Well, to be fair,
it's incredible.
That is the proposed latency. Currently, it's still at about 200.
It's probably going to get better, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it'll probably be a lot better by the time, it's fully operational, which I think is in the next, 2 to 6 years, hey?
I think they say 2 years, yeah. So
that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Now on to another incredible topic. The cloning of extinct animals.
Gosh damn. Okay, so what's this time? What dinosaur are we cloning now?
I wish it was dinosaurs, okay? For all of you who have been listening for so long, I have an obsession. I love dinosaurs. Jurassic Park, mega fan here. I will never stop loving them no matter how old I get. Now, it is apt that you're speaking about Jurassic Park, because that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, yes, it's happening.
Always.
But no. What they did is it's the first time an animal on the US endangered species list has been brought back to life via cloning. In this sense, it was a
raccoon? A ferret?
A black-footed ferret named Elizabeth Ann.
Oh.
It's a wonderful name. So Elizabeth be back. What they did is they took a genetic material and they implanted it in a normal ferret's womb. Well, not the womb. I mean, obviously, they fertilized an egg with a genetic material, and she's been born and she's good. And why they're hailing this as an incredible achievement is because the black-footed ferret for many years ago, was considered almost extinct. Where they weren't available because of deforestation and just being killed in general. Then eventually, over the years, they've sort of bounced back. Now, I think there's 1,000 or so, maybe a couple of thousand of them available. But the thing is, they've lost a lot of genetic diversity because of so many of them dying. Now, Elizabeth Ann was frozen 30 years ago when they noticed that these animals were being decimated. And what that means is that she has genetic traits and material from the black-footed ferret from over 30 years ago that may no longer exist in the newer evolutionary relatives. And what's great about that is that if now that they've cloned her and they can raise her, and should she be able to breed with other black ferrets, that genetic variation comes back, and that helps bolster the population to make them stronger. So
See, now,
it's yeah.
no, carry on.
No, it's an incredibly fascinating thing, and it leads towards the possibility of maybe something like a Jurassic Park happening.
See,
Um,
instead of Jurassic Park, I'm thinking rhinoceros.
yes,
But now
like the
you're
black and white
saying,
rhinos. Yeah.
you're saying that they had to take the cloned cells and implant it into a ferret that currently lived.
Yes,
Or
so
lives.
but now there is an important distinction here, which is why your rhinoceros theory will work, and that's because
Mhm.
they took the black-footed ferret embryo and put it in a normal ferret. So
See, so
essentially, that's like taking the extinct white rhino and implanting that
yeah.
in a normal rhino for birth. Yes,
Okay.
yes,
So, but there
absolutely.
must be another rhino. They
Oh
can't
yeah,
lab
yeah.
grow it.
No, I mean, how else? Maybe an elephant. An elephant could probably birth a rhino.
Maybe. I'm just worried. Wondering.
Mm,
That's
yeah,
cool though.
or well, until of course we develop the tech where we can actually have the embryonic sac and that growing outside of the body.
But that means your Jurassic Park is much closer than you think,
Yes, it
because
is.
the crocodile.
Okay,
And
wait. We I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because I'm very excited about this. I in the same article which we will link to, they did mention how it is far more difficult to do what they've done with this technology in avian species. And there's a lot of
reptile as well.
hypothesis to the fact that dinosaurs are more avian related than they are reptilian.
Yeah.
So also it turns out that mammalians or mammals are far easier to do this with.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean it's very very interesting. I think it's great. I'm glad we're moving in the kind of direction where you see, like the big thing about this one, why it's okay for this black-footed ferret to be genetically engineered and to come back to life is because the animal was decimated through humanity. It's not like the dinosaurs, which people will argue their time came and went. So you shouldn't,
Mm.
some will argue you shouldn't bring that extinct species back because it had
Yeah.
its time and it's gone. Whereas things like the dodo and this ferret, for example, have been, or even the white rhino, have been decimated because of humanity, not because there was some extraneous virus or disease or cataclysmic event that caused them to go extinct. We did. That's the
That's
difference.
sad. Yeah.
You
yeah,
see,
yeah.
so that's why they're hailing this as a wonderful thing, and why it's good news for extinct and endangered species. But of course, the good news is it will only go so far as governments changing the way they think around the world to prevent this kind of thing from happening.
Yeah.
We need to
Yeah.
be more careful, especially when it comes to pumping NSFW. That was a very bad segue, but
Yeah, it was. I was like, where are you going with this?
we went from like this super downer to like, well, welcome back to our NSFW segment. Edward,
Yeah.
let's go. What is it? It's something about sexual
Yeah.
injuries.
Okay, so a little while ago we spoke about like being more fun during sex or during during the whole session, and we spoke about like using hot or toys that you warmed up, or toys that you frozen, or just using
You
stuff.
could be so careful. Oh, anyway.
Yeah,
Just thinking of the blisters from the cold and the hot.
Exactly. So speaking of blisters, that got me thinking, because I was re-listening to old episodes. How many cases are there that actually resulted in bad things, like people getting hurt? So I did a bit of searching, and I came to this one site called it's Mirror. It's basically a tabloid But
Oh, the Daily Mirror.
Yeah.
Oh, it
like
is. It is the.
yeah, it's a tabloid. But this person collected a bunch of Reddit accounts, and I went and I found a few of them, but I couldn't find all of them in one spot. Anyway, she found accounts of people, nurses, and people who know nurses and doctors, who spoke about patients who came in with sexual damage or
naturally
of the kind.
Of
now,
course.
this is weird shit. Like, for instance, the post opens up with someone who got their insides of their ass bit by a spider.
How?
How?
How did it get in there in the first place? Because normally anuses are they're tight. Ain't nothing going in there unless how?
Well, we've spoken in a past episode about people, especially that rumor about Richard Gere, who loves to put gerbils up their ass. Now, I suppose this was the same.
Yes, but
instance.
How? It's pushing it in there would kill it.
I don't know what happened. Anyway, I guess it bit because they were pushing it in there.
Do you know what I think happened? I
What?
think it was probably some dusty ass old sex toy that they fished out of a cupboard didn't realize that inside one of the crevices was a spider and they were having a good time. That's what I think.
Anyway, the only reason this guy came into the hospital in the first place was because they didn't know if they could put bug bite cream up their butts. So that means
maybe it was something like a tarantula.
No, tarantulas are huge.
That's what I'm saying.
Jeez. Anyway, moving on because I hate spiders and I don't want to be on this topic anymore.
No, but hang on. So you're telling me this guy had a spider up his butt, and the only reason why he came into the emergency ward is because he wanted to know if he could put bug cream up his butt.
Yes. Yes. It's weird.
Gosh.
So,
you know what?
On,
this is one of those stories. No, I slipped and I fell on the spider.
Yeah, I fell on the spider, and instead of almost squishing it, and then it bit me. And then I wanted to put cream up my ass, but I didn't know if I could.
No, yeah, I didn't feel it crawling in there. Not at all.
Yeah, and I just whoop. my entire butt went cold.
Listen, I don't do creepy crawlies and things, but like,
nah.
Damn, come on, y'all know, y'all get a little hair there from your head, and you know what that feels like. You mean to tell me that this bitch didn't know that there was something crawling in there?
Yeah, no, I think it was much more deliberate.
No, thank you.
Anyway, talking about deliberate, another person recalls a guy who had his mini lava lamp stuck in his butt, and that burnt him. Now, what do you have to go through to think that a mini lava lamp will fit and make you feel good?
Wait, listen, did it burn him?
Yeah, it was apparently burned.
What an idiot! Come on, anybody who's touched a lava lamp knows that those things
gets hot. Yeah.
I mean,
not only
just
that,
by holding it, you should have known. Oh, what, did he also slip on?
Yeah, like it probably just slipped on it and fell on his desk onto the lava lamp.
No, you slip backward into the lava lamp. It happens.
Yeah, it just happened.
Or you sat on your desk and you didn't realize it was there. Oops.
Yeah. And then there was another user called Rent Take or whatever, a Reddit user, who explained that his uncle-in-law is an anesthesiologist who had a patient who poured concrete in his gaped butt in an attempt to make a custom dildo.
Why? Also, that doesn't make sense. You should.
There are much
taking it of your
ways.
No, but if you're going to concrete anything, it would be your penis. That would give you the shape of the dildo.
But for that, you use corn syrup, not concrete. And then,
oh gosh.
And then another takeout I got from this. It's a long post, so we'll link to it. But another takeout I got was from user Life Is Not Fair to You, who spoke about a patient who came in who crashed their car while having sex with a furry toy. I mean, seriously. Well, and then another one, another
you
user,
couldn't wait. You couldn't.
No, apparently not. So
this is as bad as looking at your phone while you're driving. I mean, worse probably because you're getting pleasure.
Exactly. And then another user talks to someone who had 7 carrots stuck up there because they tried to their lady friend tried to simulate their the male G-spot, the prostate, in an attempt to get his penis going because he just couldn't. I think it's erectile dysfunction.
So hold on. He couldn't get an erection, so they stuffed carrots up his butt instead.
To try and stimulate his prostate. 7 11-inch
These
carrots.
are very, very special kinds of people. I'm sorry to say.
I have no words except for just going through the list. And this list goes on and on.
Okay. So what was the purpose of this list now? Because other than the fact that you've made me laugh hysterically at these crazy things that normal people... Okay, I want to say normal people don't do, but these are normal people. So.
Or are they though? My point is... Oh, and also off topic, but Marianne just sent me an image of an aubergine. So out of the blue.
We all know what Edward's getting later.
Gosh. An aubergine for lunch. Anyway, the point of this list was if your partner comes up to you in an attempt to be more kinky during sex or whatever, and they give you a lava lamp.
Listen.
Just say no.
Listen. Your body is your body. Okay? You also have to think. If somebody's coming to you being like, we're going to use these carrots to get it back.
Yeah,
you should
it's
just be
not
like,
worth
what?
But there are medication for that.
Listen, my first thing would be like, carrots are for the eyes. How is this going to help?
Yeah, like... Maybe if it goes in the other way around. It's about the same distance.
I can't. 7 of them as well. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
I hope they wash them. That's all I'm going to say about that. You know, especially if you're buying organic ones, they come with dirt in that. That ain't good for your insides.
Yeah. Maybe
now, speaking of that, right?
Bed.
Because like you were talking about medication and stuff for that. Now, you've written something here which is super, super interesting to me because I've taken melatonin before. So the fact that you now have this one weird case, or not weird, this one random case of someone who took melatonin and apparently that's better for pumping.
Yeah, apparently for this one person, but maybe not for this one person is what I'm getting at. So I found this. Okay, so we spoke, I think it was the last episode or the one before that, we spoke about this random ass Instagram ads we're both getting now, just by talking about something. Now, I've been getting...
I can't wait.
These are the ads I've been getting. It's these melatonin sticks you can smoke or something and then go to bed and it's better. And now... melatonin, it got me thinking, what the hell is melatonin? Because admittedly, I didn't know. Turns out that melatonin is the opposite of serotonin. It's the sleeping hormone.
Yeah, so it's the kind of natural remedy for wanting to sleep. So we've discussed this many times before. I'm a very, very light sleeper, and I often struggle to really sleep properly, which is weird because we're actually going to talk about the witching hour that Edward's going to mention here. I'm literally up daily at 3 a.m. But we'll get to that in a second. We'll get to that in a second.
Yes, so scientific background. Oh yeah, sorry, go.
No. So it's just interesting to me that you're bringing this up because I have actually used it in the past, and I can't say it really made an effect on me.
Yeah, that's the thing with melatonin. It depends on your body, just like vitamins. Your body will absorb it better if you have a loss of it. If you have a shortage of it, your body will absorb it much better than anything else.
Well, I'm pretty sure I do because you wrote here that melatonin's at its peak at 3 a.m.
Yes.
Guess who'll be up every day at 3 a.m., y'all?
Okay, but that's because your house is haunted or some shit. Because, I mean, come on. That's witching hour, okay? So how melatonin works is your body slowly gives off melatonin, I guess. It builds up the melatonin levels in your body as the hours progress, as the day gets darker. That's why sometimes when it's dark out, even during the day, you'll still feel tired.
Like when it's heavy rain and clouds.
Yeah, like now it as you can see, my webcam is on dark mode already because it's pitch black outside. Because I have been opening my curtains more and more. Anyway, and by the time 3 o'clock rolls around, it starts decreasing again, and maybe yours just drops. Anyway, if you
I don't know.
Instagram ads I've being served, you can smoke one. And
I
sleep better or
genuinely
something.
want you to buy some of them. Just do it. I mean,
do I though?
look, your whole thing here is that apparently it equals better sex. Please buy some of these sticks and let us know. Let Marianne can give us a snippet of whether it was better or worse
I don't
after you
need
took
better
it.
sex. Okay, just saying.
Yeah, well,
Just putting it
evidently
out
not.
there.
We know the aubergines are flowing. Okay, so
So yeah, going off the whole melatonin rabbit hole,
yeah.
I found this link from Mel magazine, which is an amazing website, by the way. But that's off topic. That's an entirely different topic. From a guy called Jake Hall, I believe is his name. The writer is called Jake Hall, who wrote about a Reddit user named Hannah, who found that, funnily enough, she took melatonin because she's like you, Hans. She's had trouble sleeping. Then she had sex, and she was on some kind of new plateau while she orgasmed, and that got her thinking that this is the only thing different that we took before sex.
Yeah, that's
so
just
it must be
changing.
this.
Yeah.
And over the course of a few months, she fine-tuned the drugs she took, which is the melatonin, to figure out that 1 milligram of melatonin will put her on exactly the same high she got while she did it the first time. So I guess she takes different doses for different scenarios or whatever.
For different levels of orgasm.
Yeah. So according to her, about 5 milligrams taken 30 minutes to 45 minutes before sex will always lead to the same high.
That's
Now,
amazing.
the funny thing is, and the scary thing as well, is that there is literally zero research on this exact topic of melatonin.
Well, you see, I can understand why. Melatonin is meant to make you feel sleepy to go to bed. In fact, doesn't your body excrete it after an orgasm?
Yes, that's the thing. So there are many conflicting reports from scientists from all reputable universities who state that melatonin, especially if taken in high doses and if you have lots of them, can either enhance fertility or suppress fertility.
Fertility,
Now,
really?
Yes. Now, on that
Wow.
topic, obviously your body secretes it while during sex. So when you orgasm, you give or you
Which is
have
why
enhanced
you
levels of melatonin.
feel relaxed and you can sleep afterwards.
Yes. Now, my thinking was that Hannah is one of these people that these women who artificially
Roll over and
inflate
sleep.
the numbers. Yes,
Yeah,
from like
yeah,
get
yeah.
all 40.
I remember
or
that was a
something.
great episode.
Yes, there are a lot of studies talking about how much melatonin there is during sex and how quick you can fall asleep during sex because of the melatonin, but zero
For libido.
Yes. The funny thing about this is we don't, even though there are zero studies, sex shops still sells brownies containing melatonin. They still sell these melatonin sticks that claim that it enhances your libido.
Yes, correct.
And I just found it so fascinating that this one person is the only one speaking out about it. So,
Well,
yeah.
who knows, hey? I mean, some testing might be in order, hey, Edward?
Maybe. I'll ask the missus. But yeah, it's
Wow, okay, well,
maybe she's like Hannah.
that's the end of NSFW. Wow, that was interesting. The NSFW is always so interesting.
Yeah,
every
it's
time, you
nice
know?
and knowledgeable one. There's some informative.
Yeah.
I
Well,
find
there
it
we
fun.
go. That's the end of season 2, episode 3. Gettle
Yeah.
45.
Yeah,
Thank you all for listening. Hey, Ed.
yeah, it was a good one.
We don't really have. Oh, actually, no. We're getting a few more things in, possibly early next week. Whether or not we might speak about them next week is another story.
Yeah, it depends.
Also, before we go, I am now rocking the iPhone 12 Pro.
With an ugly-ass case.
We're not speaking about that because MagSafe is live. So I'll have a little bit more on that eventually. But so far, if you have an iPhone 11 Pro, it's the same experience, just better.
Yeah, basically.
Because I do know I owe all of you proper reviews on like the headset and stuff like that as well. So we will speak about that at a future date. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening. And for those of you who are giving us feedback as per always, and the support on Twitter and YouTube and everywhere else, thank you. We do immensely appreciate it. We do read all of your comments, even, and this is my bad, even if I'm bad at responding, but even though Edward is good at it. It's always lovely to hear from all of you, and we hope that you're all well, and we hope that you all have a wonderful week going forward, and we look forward to seeing you for Season 2, Episode 4.
Yeah.
Until then, all have a wonderful time. Cheerio.
Bye.